Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Wednesday night, 3rd of December, just a little after 9 o'clock. This wasn't on a rundown. It just got done a few minutes ago. Iowa State scores a school record 132 points against Alcorn State. Who's the most famous athlete to come out of Alcorn State, Trev? Trivia for you.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Steve McNair. That's where he went.
Oh, yeah. Steve McNair is. Yeah, you're right.
So that's where he went. But, yeah, they won by like 60, 22 three-pointers. I believe that was another school record. So just Iowa State's just continuing to hum along. We're going to find out how good they are Saturday at 11 a.m. against Purdue at Purdue. So we're going to find out real quick.
It's a lot of threes and good for them on a school record. And, yeah, you got a real test coming up versus Purdue. Iowa had one last night. Iowa State's further along than Iowa is, obviously, right, in their current situation. But, that's a heck of a game for Iowa State tonight.
Yeah, it's just fun to do. At one time, Milan Monsilovic was 8 for 8 from three. Another guy went 7 for 10. It's just one of those nights. You don't get those very, very often. They're just fun to do. Let's hit on the Hawkeye game real quick. Then we'll get into the meat and potatoes, college football, and all the drama with that, and then the NFL. Iowa ran into what will be their problem all year. These players, for the most part, have not played in environments like Michigan State and against athletes as good as Michigan State. It showed yesterday. Now, I think by the time, March rolls around, Coach McCollum will figure out some things and the players will figure out some things. But it showed yesterday that they've been a Division II team and a Missouri Valley team, and they haven't played to this level of competition very often. Now, when they played Texas Tech last year in the tournament, that was a big environment, big-time team, but it was a neutral court. And Michigan State and Tom Izzo is a different animal than Texas Tech in a tournament. I don't care what anybody says. Izzo wanted to show Coach McCollum that it's his league and it's his place. And he did that. And the Hawks will be better for it, but they were shown yesterday what Big Ten basketball is all about.
Yeah, it's a step up for them. Obviously, They played in the tournament last year, but, going on the road to Michigan State, Tom Izzo, one of the best coaches of all time. So I really wasn't that surprised they lost like they did. It was bound to happen. I think they'll do fine for the most part in Big Ten play, but when it comes to like a team like Michigan State, it was a wake-up call or whatever you want to say. But like you said, they'll be better in the long run for it. And I still expect good, big things out of this team. Hopefully make the NCAA tournament. But I really wasn't surprised. It was their first real big test on the road and one of the toughest environments out there. So no surprise that they lost, especially by the margin that they did too.
No, and it was there were 10 fouls in like the first 10 minutes. It was like, I think it was 10-9. Iowa might even have been ahead, or it was right about that score. And then Michigan State went on a 17-1 run, and it was over. But, yeah, like you said, not a surprise. They needed it, and they'll learn from it and be better for it. Let's get to, let's start with the Lane Kiffin drama. And I might be weird, but I am just intrigued so much by the coaching carousel and just all the drama that ensues with it. Just today, another, Chris Kleiman at Kansas State retires. Colin Klein, Kansas State quarterback, comes back. Brian Hartline goes to South Florida. I think the rumor was that Klein was going to go to South Florida, and Kansas State caught wind of that and said, Kleiman, you're out, because they knew they could get Colin Klein now. But if Klein gets to South Florida and he has a year or two where he goes 10-2 and 11-1, gets to a playoff, he can name his job. It's not Kansas State. So Kansas State said, Kleiman, you're retiring. I don't care what anybody says. That's what happened. And then the surprising one is Hartline going to South Florida. Now, I think it's a good job. He's going to go there and he's going to go 10-2 or 11-1, and he's going to be able to name his job. But I thought Penn State would go after him. Now, what this entails is I think Penn State has their guy. They just haven't announced it yet. So I think it's between two guys, or at least these are the front runners. Now, I do think the BYU coach was in play. It came out yesterday and then stayed at BYU. But I think it's Brian Daboll or it's Manny Diaz. Manny Diaz was a D coordinator under Franklin for a while. Went to Duke. Duke's playing in the championship game on Saturday. So his season is not over yet. So I think that's why it hasn't been announced. And then obviously Daboll, little surprised if they're going after him or if that he's their guy that they haven't announced it yet, but there might be something with the NFL contract where he can't yet. I don't know that. Or maybe they do want to wait for Manny Diaz has said, wait till I'm done. And they're okay with that. But it is surprising that Penn State hasn't announced their guy yet. But depending on who they get, I will understand it, but it's completely fascinating. I love reading about it. And then let's get to Kiffin. Kiffin cannot get out of his own way. I think we talked about it a few weeks ago, his documentary, how he's a changed person. He loves Ole Miss. It's the best 6 years of his life. And then he burns it all down in 24 hours.
Well, there's a lot to go in with Lane Kiffin. There's a lot of different directions we can go to. I think first and foremost, everybody's talked about this. The calendar's messed up, but let's go before the calendar though. Ole Miss, when they hired Lane Kiffin, they had to know this was a possibility. So when you get in bed with a guy like Lane Kiffin, you have to know if he succeeds here, he's going to move on to bigger and better things. Even though you don't want to admit that, in the back of your minds, you have to have realistic conversations. Lane. This is the type of guy he is. Nothing's really changed. Some things he's changed in his life, but at the end of the day, he's going to do what's best for him, which I don't necessarily disagree with. The calendar is really the biggest problem, and no guidelines in college football. And we've talked about that for a couple of years with NIL, transfer portal, all this type of stuff doesn't go on in the NFL. There's a time and a place for it where these discussions can happen and transactions can be made, coaching and players. So Lane is Lane. Ole Miss knew it when they got in bed with him. It sucks for the players, but I don't necessarily feel as bad for the players as I would have 10 years ago because a lot
they're
of
getting paid now. Yep.
So it's ugly, but college football is ugly all around in many different areas. So
absolutely, I 100% agree. Lane Kiffin has not changed deep down. He had to do what he felt was best, and it can only happen in college football where you're in the playoff with a team that has a chance to win the national championship, but you're going to leave before it's over to go to a different place in the same conference. One besides Mississippi State, probably your next biggest rival, because you think you have a better chance to win the national championship, but not this year. I mean, that's just crazy to think about. But deep down, 98% of coaches would have made that move. There are many people that consider Alabama or LSU is the best job in the entire country. So him making the move from Ole Miss to LSU is not the problem. I don't think anybody blames him for that. Calendar sucks. And then he tried to, he wanted to coach Ole Miss through the playoff. And Ole Miss told him to take a hike. Now, LSU said, okay, that's fine. We'll pay you anyway. Did you hear this? They are going to pay him the bonuses that he would have got if he kept coaching Ole Miss and they kept winning. So if Ole Miss wins the national championship, LSU is going to pay Lane Kiffin an extra $1 million because that was a bonus he would have got from Ole Miss. That is hilarious to me.
I did hear that. And, for him to want to stay coaching, in a perfect world, that's what you do. But if you're Ole Miss, you have to let him go. I mean, you can't.
You cannot do it.
Yeah, you can't get dumped and then say, okay, we'll stay together for a few more weeks, just to make it through this period of time. So in a perfect world, yes, you would like to let them stay and coach the players, and it's a fairy tale movie like we talk about in here all the time. But you can't do that if you're Ole Miss. It's fascinating though. But like you said, most coaches would have done this anyway. But given Lane's checkered past, it's one of the biggest stories in college football history. And then you've got all these other side stories coming out of he left his dog behind, but it really wasn't his dog, or the yoga people are happy to see him leave. And of course, nowadays you don't know what's real on the internet anymore or on Instagram. I see all this stuff, and it's exhausting to me. I don't have time to get on Google and research. Okay, is this true? Is it fake news? Are these screenshots real? But all the dirty laundry is coming out now, and it's just it's fascinating. The flip side, though, is some people have brought up when we were growing up, you would always leave to go to LSU. That was no question from Ole Miss or a program like Ole Miss. Well, Kurt Sonetti's staying at Indiana, and Matt Rule's staying at Nebraska. Now, Nebraska back in our day was a top-tier program. They're not right now. So some of these coaches are choosing to stay at lesser programs. The Texas Tech coach, they're giving all their money. So we don't have all the answers yet. We're going to find out over the next 3 to 5 years. Can you really build true powers at an Indiana, a Texas Tech, if Lane would have stayed at an Ole Miss, or do you really have to jump ship to go to an LSU or a school like that?
Yeah, I mean, you think about Vanderbilt coach re-upped, Missouri's coach re-upped. There would have been a lot of times where the Missouri coach would have left for the Arkansas job. Now, I really don't think it's a better job now. I would have stayed at Missouri as well. But the BYU coach didn't go to Penn State. I think Penn State's a top 5 to 10 job in the country. But BYU has, they've got more money than God, literally, because Brigham Young and God, or whatever you want to call him, they own so much stuff. They have like the most cattle in the world. I mean, it's crazy what the church owns. And then let alone they've got, the crumble cookie guy said, well, I guess I'll write a big check to keep our coach and our NIL budget going. So, they paid $7 million for a basketball player. They are right at the top. Them and Texas Tech are the 2 highest funded football programs. And funny to say it, they're playing for the championship on Saturday. He's on the verge of making a playoff. They were in the tiebreaker last year. I mean, it wasn't like this isn't a fluke deal. They lost the tiebreaker last year against Iowa State and Arizona State. So, yeah, we're going to find out who really has money. And now I was listening to somebody this morning, and I listened to too many podcasts, so I cannot remember which one, but it was, everybody's talking about who's the have and the have-nots. Well, now it's everybody haves because, Kentucky came up with $38 million to get rid of Stoops. So everybody can come up with the money. It's the haves and the have-mores, or the have everything. It's no one is broke in this system. They all have as much money as they need. Everybody can find it if they want to. Now, the one school that must really not be able to is Florida State, because Mike Norvell still has a job, and I flat do not understand that, because I watched some of the last 2 games, and they are a bad football team. I have no idea how they beat Alabama. I really do not. They are a bad football team. They make mental mistakes. They make physical mistakes. I mean, special teams kill them. I mean, just penalties kill. I mean, it's anything that can go wrong will go wrong. But yeah, it's just this is some of the best time of year. The only, what's amazing is today it was signing day. Iowa State signed their highest recruiting class ever, and hardly anybody's talking about it in general, in the big scheme of things. Obviously, I watched all their stuff and I listened to Campbell and everything, and that's fine. But, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the signing day was in February, and it was like a holiday. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, you remember that, Trev. It was a huge, huge deal. Now, 90%, it seems like 90% of these players won't stay at one school anyway, so they're not going to be with you anyway. So what's the point in paying attention? And 2, if one of these guys don't pan out. Even if they decide to stay, you're just going to go get a transfer portal guy that'll play right in front of them anyway. So you're not going to know or see these guys for a couple years at a place like Iowa State. Now, Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, the high school players they sign are expected to come in and play right now because they're signing the best players. And you said it 100%. I'm going to 100% agree with you, Trev. What did Ole Miss expect going to LSU? Well, LSU's in the same boat because if and when Kalen DeBoer decides to leave or get fired in a few years, if it happens, you don't think that Alabama's going to put the full court press on Lane Kiffin for that. You're crazy. And he's going to do the same thing to LSU as he just did to Ole Miss. Because I do think he would go to Alabama.
Yeah, Joel Clapp brought that up today, and
I didn't even know that, but that's my first.
This is going to Penn State, and he goes, the reason Penn State hasn't hired a coach yet is probably, first of all, because they fumbled part of it. Right. They fired a pretty good coach, a decent coach at least, too early, and then they didn't get the candidates that they wanted. He thinks they're holding off for the two names that you mentioned, but he also brought in Kalen DeBoer. What if Kalen DeBoer loses on Saturday? Could Kalen DeBoer go to Penn State? And then Nick Ryder, someone asked me, he's like, well, who does Alabama go after? He's like, well, those go after Lane Kiffin. He'll just jump ship again, in a month. So, joking around a little bit, but obviously, wouldn't be totally.
They're not wrong though.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely would. He's that type of guy. Yeah, the Lane Kiffin stuff is ugly. The Penn State, let's talk about that for a minute. Like I said, I think they fired a coach a little bit too early. It's always easy to fire a coach. That's easy to do. Anybody can fire someone. The real question is, who do you bring in? What's your plan? You got to have a plan if you're going to fire someone. And if you do fire a coach or any employee in any business, the person you bring in better be better or at least be comparable to the person you fired, worst case scenario. So it seems like we'll see what happens, but it feels like Penn State's kind of fumbled this. But, they haven't hired anyone yet, so we can't say that for sure. But it does seem like Penn State has kind of just messed this whole thing up from the time they fired Franklin.
I read this, I think, on one of my things I was reading today or yesterday, that Jimmy Sexton, who is in charge of – here's the worst part about this whole deal, is Jimmy Sexton is the agent for all of these guys. Every coach that's been hired and fired, and the AD and the ESPN personalities. That's the problem with the whole thing, is one guy's getting paid for all these guys. I mean, he's Herb Street's agent. He's Reese Davis's agent. He's Nick Saban's agent. He's Lane Kiffin's agent. I mean, it's just, I believe he's James Franklin's agent. And he's telling his clients not to go to Penn State, is what I read. Because he goes, it just wasn't fair what they did to James Franklin. So that's your top coaches. Yeah,
I've heard and read the same thing. So that seems to be what's going on. Brian Daboll, I'm really not a big fan of his. I was early, but all the stories I've read about him not getting along with coaches and kind of the downfall. Now, college is a different story. Yeah. Sometimes when guys get fired from coaching, they turn around. They have a little bit of a wake-up call. So maybe it would be good to hire Daboll, but Manny Diaz, I don't know if fans are going to get excited about that. I actually think Jeff Brom would probably be the best guy that they could bring in. I didn't realize Jeff Brom has a pretty impressive record versus ranked teams.
And he's not been any powerhouses. I mean, he's been at Western Kentucky, Louisville, and Purdue. I mean, you're not talking powerhouse teams.
Yeah, and you give him the Penn State resources, who knows what he could do. I almost think that's maybe the guy they should go after if they can't get DeBoer, which I don't think they're going to. What
would you think about this one? Here's an interesting one. There's two names. One that's, I think, kind of a joke, and the one's a big joke. I really do think it's not going to happen. But what about Chip Kelly?
Chip Kelly kind of fits into some NFL talk that we'll do later, but there was rumors coming out that you may have heard this, that he didn't know the plays that he was signaling in. I think that's a smear campaign. I really can't see that happening. I mean, you don't want to say anything's impossible, and I'm not a fan of Chip Kelly, but even that was over the top for me when I heard that. I'm like, that seems a little extreme.
He won a national championship last year at Ohio State. He didn't forget.
I think that's where he goes. I think Chip Kelly goes back there as the OC now that Hartline's leaving.
Okay.
That would be my guess. That would probably be his. It'd definitely be on the board. Chip Kelly, though, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he's a big
I'm just
name.
saying you start going down the list, and then the other one would be Brian Kelly. I mean, Chip Kelly and Brian Kelly are both East Coast guys. So, I mean, I thought Brian Kelly might go to Michigan State. Now I think Fitzgerald's a really good fit there.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, because Brian Kelly's actually spent a lot of time in Michigan at D2 Grand Valley State and at Central Michigan. So he knows Michigan. Obviously being at Notre Dame, he knows how to play Michigan and beat Michigan. And, I don't think that would have been the worst hire either. I do like Fitzgerald for that job, but and it looks like Kentucky's going to go after Oregon's offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think if Jeff Brom would jump ship and go to Penn State, because I think Will Stein played at Louisville, so that might be there might be a battle for Stein there.
Yeah, at this point, if I'm Penn State, with the candidates that are left, I kind of like Jeff Brom. That would be the guy I'd want to go after, just the potential upside there. Not the biggest name on the list, when this first started, but given the list that it is now, that'd be a guy I'd be pretty intrigued for.
Well, and then sorry to interrupt there, but then each passing day, each passing candidate, they have had to talk to Matt Campbell, haven't they? Or at least talked about him. And either he's just flat out told him no, or he's just too far down their list. But the list they're checking people off the list right and left. It's going lower and lower on their list.
Yeah, Campbell, tier 1 would have to be like Kiffin and Saban and these guys. Tier 2, Campbell would have to be somewhere, depending on that list. And maybe he just told people no. I know Josh Pate's he brought up his name the night when I listened to him.
He wants Matt Campbell to go to Penn State more than anybody in the country.
Yeah, or maybe go to an SEC school or just anywhere. Obviously, Iowa State fans want him to stay where he's at. But that's a name that has to be mentioned too. We'll see who Penn State hires. Like I said, right now it feels like they've really just fumbled this whole thing from the very beginning. But if they get the right guy, Manny Diaz, Jeff Brom, Brian Daboll, maybe it'll work out at the end of the day. But they fired their coach early, and they're the last to hire of all and not just at the big schools, even the small schools. They're right. One of the few that still haven't hired someone. And that's what Joel Klatt was saying today. He brought Manny Diaz, Jeff Brom, and he said, an outside chance, jokingly, but not off the table, of Kalen DeBoer.
And and Kalen DeBoer is he's from South Dakota. He spent time in Iowa, like at Northwestern or Morningside and Sioux Falls. So he's a Midwest guy. The offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, is from Iowa. There was some talk of, when they hired Tim Lester as their offensive coordinator, that they should have went after Ryan Grubb and then essentially made him coaching waiting for Ferentz. I mean, there was some talk there because you would have had to give him more than just the offensive coordinator role for him to leave Washington at the time when they were rolling up there and getting to I believe they made the playoff and everything last year or two of the Pac-12. But yeah, it would be real interesting if Alabama loses on Saturday. Somehow they don't make the playoff, which I think they'd be really close to not making it. I do think they still will, but it would be close. I mean, if BYU would beat Texas Tech, that would be maybe they would get pushed out. I do think they'd push out Notre Dame before Alabama, but it's going to be close if they lose on Saturday and if some things happen. And DeBoer would leave. Lane Kiffin he'd have to just be screaming, "You got to be kidding me." But I don't know. Because if Alabama doesn't go get Kiffin, who do they go get? I mean, the first two calls they make are Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart, but I don't think you leave Oregon or Georgia to go to Alabama.
No, you don't leave Georgia because they've got more money. You don't leave Oregon probably because they've got more money than Alabama does. Bringing up if they lose on Saturday, Josh Pate still thinks they're in because he said last year the ACC championship The loser still got in. So they have to stick to valuing the conference championship games.
They're not going to, though, because if that's the case, BYU would be in. They're only going to have 2 losses, both to the same team who's going to be ranked number 3 in the country, or 3 or 4 in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not true, but they will. I mean, I agree that they'll still get in, but that's a whole different argument. But that's my Big 12 bias.
That's your Big 12 bias coming in. Yeah, no, if BYU loses, they're 0% chance getting in.
Right. I agree. And unless chaos happens. If Alabama would lose and Duke wins and they don't move Miami in, there is a chance, but it's very, very unlikely.
Right. And yeah, if Duke wins, then yeah, there's a real chance that ACC doesn't even get in the tournament, which is a whole nother, because the ACC doesn't have to get a team in. That's a lot of people didn't know that, including myself going into the season.
Well, there was a little outside chance of that last year with Iowa State and Arizona State. Now it ended up not working that way because both Iowa State and Arizona State were ranked higher because somebody got beat. But yeah, there's a good chance. Now here would be the interesting part is I do think Duke could get left out, but I think they probably could still take Miami just as an at-large. They wouldn't take the champ because they're ranked higher. And that's what needs to change too. I mean, that the ACC is just, I understand what happened, but these conferences are all too big. I mean, it was a mess last year with Iowa State, Arizona State, and Colorado and BYU. It was a 4-way tie. None of them played each other. I mean, it was crazy. So, but yeah, you've got a 10-2 Miami team that did not make the ACC championship that's ranked higher than both teams, and one team not even ranked at all because they were 7-5 because they lost to Tulane and they lost to UConn. I mean, it's insane.
It's a mess, and that's probably why they need to get to the watch. This whole thing is we're going to expand now. This is what's going to happen, and we do need to probably get rid of the committee and just go to the 4-4-2-2 or whatever the format's going to be. And some people say, well, okay, well then some years you might have an 8-4 Big Ten team that gets in. Well, yeah, but look at the NFL playoffs. You have some years where a 7-9 or an 8-9 division winner gets in. We understand that it doesn't happen that often, but the rules are in place. So that's what, there's no secrets. There's no mystery. It's just, you either finish high enough or you don't. And that's probably what's going to have to come down to. And with the expansion of the playoffs, eventually that will be possible. But this year, if Miami and Notre Dame played right now, I would take Notre Dame.
Yep.
But the problem is they're not playing right now, and their resumes are similar. So I do think that Miami probably should be in over Notre Dame because they did already play, and Miami won the game. Even though I think if they were to play right now, I would pick Notre Dame to win the game.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I also would pick Notre Dame probably to beat Texas A&M today too.
Mm-hmm.
But when they played, A&M won at Notre Dame.
Yeah, no, and that's has to mean something. I mean, it can't be you can't play these games and not have it mean anything. So that's a problem with the committee. It's also the problem too with most all their sports have playoffs. Now college is a little bit different because you have selection tournaments, but there was basketball and football and all this stuff. So it gets a little bit hairy, but with college football becoming more like the NFL, there just probably need to get rid of a committee and just have a structured, however many of the top teams from each conference make it, and then some at-larges, and of course the Notre Dame bid, which they're always going to have unless they join one. It's not completely fair, but at least everybody knows the rules. That way there's no surprises going into a season. You just know if you're in the Big Ten, if you finish fourth, you're in. If you're in the Big 12 fans might not like it, or ACC, but if I finish first or second, I get in the dance. There's no mystery behind it.
Yeah, and I'm almost for doing this now. Skip 16, go to 24, and essentially take the top 24 teams. Just take them and just seed them and go. No automatics. No, just 1 through 24, whatever it is. Just like you're saying, go earn it on the field. You're going to have 4 lost teams. That's okay. You're going to everybody that's 11-2 or 11-1, they're going to get in no matter who they are. James Madison, if they're 11-1, they're going to be ranked 20th. I mean, that's just what they are. So they're going to be in the playoff. And then here's the other thing. People we know and people we love want the 12 best teams in the playoff. Well, that is not what this playoff is. This playoff is not supposed to have the 12 best teams. So I don't know why we're arguing that. It is not the 12 best teams. If it was the 12 best teams, we'd have a completely different argument. But
if it was the 12 best teams, I think, a team that everybody is glad that's not going to be making it is Texas right now.
Yeah.
And I know they lost big to Georgia. They don't match up versus Georgia, but Texas has really changed their season around since early on. I mean, they gave Ohio State their toughest match, at least so far through the season.
Right.
So, Texas has 3 big wins. It's a mess right now. There's no perfect answer, but I think ultimately we know it's going to get expanded, though, because this is, last year it was the debate over the seeding, who got the buys. Well, they fixed that right away. And I think now the debate is it's going to have to expand because we've got the Notre Dame, Miami mess. Texas is probably deserving. Should there even be a James Madison type team making it? Right. I think we all know probably not, but there has to be right now. So it's a bit of a mess, but it's good though for college football, because college football, I mean, is big time in the news right now. I mean, more so than probably ever.
Yeah, the Texas situation is bad, but and everybody talks about the Ohio State loss. It's not the Ohio State loss that is getting them. It's the Florida loss. Don't lose to Florida. And then you don't have any discussion. Don't lose to a crappy Florida team.
Don't lose to a crappy Florida team, but also, as Urban Meyer said, this is going to push teams away from playing Ohio State versus Texas or whatever these games are, instead of just playing Old Dominion and Chattanooga State. That's just who they're going to schedule. It's like what Indiana did this year with their non-conference games. So,
the SEC is going to SEC is going to play itself out a little bit more going forward, because they are going to 9 conference games. That's some of their problem right now, is they only play 8 conference games with 16 teams, so they don't play anybody. There's a good chance. Well, you look at Texas A&M, you look at the standings of the SEC, they truly played the bottom, like 7 teams in Texas. I mean, it's bad. I mean, they played nobody that's ranked.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the schedule came out, they played LSU, they played Florida, but for this year, they stunk. And it wasn't, I mean, A&M just got lucky. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Now, they beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. That is a great, great win. But I have a problem with A&M too. I mean, because they haven't beaten anybody but Notre Dame right at the beginning of the season. But in conference play, they beat nobody.
That's the way their schedule worked out. If you look at their schedule, it's all the bottom feeders and teams that have fired their coaches, like you said. And they did have a good win versus Notre Dame. That can't be taken away from them. But they lost to Texas. I don't know. I've heard everybody's side of the story on this all week, and expansion and who deserves to be in, and head-to-head and resumes, and who's the best 12, or is it really the best 12? Yeah. It's a mess though, but it's good for college football. Like I said, they're in the news.
Everybody's talking about it. It's great.
And like I said, you and I know this. We've been talking about this for a while. It's just going to lead to expansion. And then, of course, if they go to 16 or 20 or 24, we think that's going to fix it. But then we'll be arguing about 24 versus 26, or the 27th team.
I don't think it will be as bad, though.
It won't be as bad. You're right.
Because when you get to 24, let's just say you go to 24, you're going to have, I mean, just kind of in my head, you're going to have 5 Big Ten teams. You're going to have 5 or 6, maybe 7 SEC teams. You're going to have 3 Big 12, 3 ACC, and then you're going to have 2 or 3 others, Notre Dame. And then, one year you might not have any of the G5. And so you get an extra Big 10 or an SEC. And then some years there might be 2 G5s and 1 less Big 10 or SEC team. But it'll work itself out. So, and you're going to be talking about 4 and 5 lost teams being left out instead of 2 or 3 loss teams.
Yeah, no, you're right on that. The discussions won't be as heated because when we talk about a 4-loss team or a 5-loss team, which at that point you've lost too many games. Where I do feel kind of bad is if a team has 1 loss or 2 losses,
right?
Like a BYU potentially, or Notre Dame or Miami right now with 2 losses. Yeah. The NFL, you can go 10-7 and make the playoffs. I mean, you can lose 7 times.
Right.
Now the competition's a little bit more close week to week, but teams are allowed to lose. These are 18 to 21-year-olds. You should be allowed to slip up or 2. Now, if you slip up 4 or 5 times, that's a different story.
And we have allowed it because 4 years ago or whatever it was, Florida State went 13-0 and didn't get a chance to show it.
Right.
Now, a little bit different, but for the example there, if it goes to 24 and we're talking about who gets in and who gets out, Iowa's in that discussion. They're 8-4, ranked 22nd, I believe. They're right on the border there. So, I mean, that's the type of team we're talking about getting in the playoff or not. Iowa State would be in that discussion as well, because they have the same record. They beat Iowa. They have the same conference record. I mean, it's just, those are the arguments you have. You're talking.
That'd be one of the big arguments. It'd be Iowa.
It absolutely would be. But that's the team. So again, you're talking about teams that 98% chance are not going to win the championship. And I really think we're not talking about teams that can win the championship, but Miami has some players and they've got quite a bit of NFL talent and they beat Notre Dame. They could win a game. They could, I mean, I don't think just putting them in, they're going to go get blown out. Even if they're the 12 seed, they go play the 5. Let's just say it's Ole Miss. I think that would be a really good football game.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. They've got NFL players, and it does feel like we'll see what happens Saturday with Indiana, but it feels like there's Ohio State, and then we'll see how Indiana plays it. But then it feels like everybody's just bunched together. And I don't know who could – I mean, it feels like anybody could finish in the Final Four of the championship game, again, assuming it's Ohio State versus the field, right? I believe everybody kind of has that same feeling this year. But, yeah, Miami – as close as their resumes are, it just, if they get snubbed out of this thing, I'm guessing the committee is hoping that Texas Tech beats BYU,
right,
and then Alabama beats Georgia, and then a team slides in.
Yeah, the real interesting one is let's say Georgia beats Alabama by 20. Then what do you do?
I think they'll keep Alabama in. That'd be my prediction.
Yeah, even by 20.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think they could lose by 30, and I think Alabama stays in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. If they get blown out, I think there's going to be some discussion, but we'll see.
There should be discussion. That's my prediction of what the committee would do.
Yeah. And every time I hear the word committee this time of year, I just think back to Mike Leach, and he goes, "You know what we ought to do? We ought to make a committee and put people on it that don't have any idea. They have nothing to college football. Just we could go have a fancy dinner and stay at a nice resort."
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah,
I miss Mike Leach. Can you imagine him today with all the NIL and the transfer portal? Can you imagine him sitting? Let's just say he was still at Mississippi State coaching. His press conference today on signing day, and someone asked him about the Lane Kiffin situation. He would have went on for 15 minutes about that.
Yeah, I don't even know what his response would have been. He would have been talking. It would have been something crazy, though. That's for sure.
It would have been really, really good. And I actually do think the anniversary of his death is coming up here pretty quick, because I think it was first part of December. But that just stinks. Anything else with college football? I mean, it's really just the playoff, which we talked about, coaching carousel, and then Lane Kiffin, and it's really it's kind of all tied into the same situations. I mean, it's one big discussion that those are kind of the 3 tentacles for it.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably good for college football. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways you could go, but it all goes back to the calendar, no guidelines, Lane Kiffin and Penn State, and it just kind of all untangles from there in the Notre Dame Miami mess.
Yeah. All right, let's go over to the NFL. And I think I sent you two things. I think is what I sent you. It's the first thing I sent you. Number 1 seed Chicago Bears, and Denver Broncos, which you would have never picked out at the beginning of the year. And then the number 2 is the Lions and the Chiefs issues. I'm pretty sure I picked those 2 in the Super Bowl, and I'm pretty sure you had the Lions in the Super Bowl as well. I don't think you had the Chiefs, but
you had Ravens, Lions.
Did I?
So
Okay.
your Ravens are alive right now.
Yeah, they're still. They didn't look good after 3 weeks, but
no, they didn't. This is a crazy year for the NFL, which happens every once in a while. I enjoy it. There's a lot of people that are upset. It's just because this year is not going like we thought it would.
Yeah.
If you would have told anybody before the year started that the Chiefs wouldn't be in the playoffs, the Ravens might not make it, the Bengals wouldn't make it, and the
Bills are the 7 seed
and may not make it. I mean,
right.
they're fighting for their lives. People would have thought you were on drugs. They would have said, "Oh, you're just trying to do a hot take. There's no way any of that happens." Well, it's all coming true. And then you look at your Bears, the Broncos, the Patriots, some of these other teams. It's just one of these years that probably needed to happen. Actually, I think it's going to make for a fun playoffs. I keep looking at the potential playoff brackets each and every week. And I'm like, I don't know who I'm going to pick. Part of me wants to pick the Bills to go on a run, but they can't stop the run. And we've talked about them. They've been up and down all year. Your Bears are ahead of schedule, and they've had a lot of fourth quarter comebacks or second half comebacks. I don't know how good they actually are, but we talked about this a few weeks ago. If they keep improving every week, there's no reason that they can't make a run because they run the ball really well. Caleb's pretty clutch toward the end of games, and their defense gets a lot of takeaways. And if they do have home field advantage, or they happen to just win the NFC North and have a home playoff game, I mean, Soldier Field's going to be one of the toughest places to play. And running the football and playing good defense, that's what December and January football is all about.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we're going to find out. Historically, they have, in the last 25 years, they have a horrible record against the Packers. They play them 2 out of the next 4 weeks. So we're going to find out what they're really made of. But I think you're going into those 2 games in a split. The 49ers are in there. That's going to be a really hard game. And then I think you have Detroit again, I believe. I think that's so. And you would have said that was going to be a really hard game. And I do think it still is, but Detroit doesn't look good right now either.
No, Detroit and the Chiefs, they don't look good at all. I mean, they look average. They're an okay team. They're not a dumpster fire by any means, but Detroit's had injuries. The back end of their defense is bad once again. Their interior line's not doing very well. The loss of Laporta seems to really be stinging for the past couple of weeks. They're not as good on 3rd and 4th down, which you could probably say that comes down to Ben Johnson. So losing him was a pretty big deal. The Chiefs, I think it's just a matter of so many. We've talked about this too. I don't think the dynasty's coming to an end. Everybody's saying that. I think it's just a reset year.
Yeah.
All the games are taking a toll. They're going to have to have some draft picks, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs miss the playoffs this year and then the Super Bowl next year, the following season. That wouldn't surprise me at all. The Chiefs aren't going anywhere. As long as Mahomes and Reed are there, they've proven. I think Mahomes is going to get another Super Bowl, maybe 2. But this just might be a result of playing all these games over the past 6 years, the wear and tear on the bodies, the cap situation. And it's just tough to keep up every single year. Even the Patriots couldn't do it.
Yeah, did the Patriots get to 3 Super Bowls in a row ever or not?
I don't think so. The Chiefs had the greatest. They won 2 in a row and made it to a 3rd. I believe that they were the only team to ever do that. Now they lost.
Right.
But I don't think any team had ever won 2 Super Bowls and then made it to a 3rd. Obviously, the Bills made it to 4 straight, but they lost all 4 of them.
Right.
So
yep.
It's a little bit different circumstances. I mean, the Packers, I thought a few weeks ago, they had a broken offense. Now their offense looks completely fixed. So NFL's a week-to-week league. It could change in a hurry. The Cowboys and the Texans are really hot right now. The Jags are hot. The Colts could miss the playoffs. I listened to radio show to Des Moines, and
I think 2 weeks ago, one of the guys that talked said Colts aren't making the playoffs. And the other guy, it was Miller and Condon, and it was Kenny Miller that was saying Colts aren't going to make playoffs. And Condon was like, "You're crazy." Well, he's not crazy. It's looking that way.
They've got a tough schedule. Sauce Gardner's hurt, who they just traded for. Daniel Jones has the leg injury that we know about, and they just haven't looked the same. And every year in the NFL, there's teams that start out hot, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Colts, and they fade. And then there's teams that come on late. The Bears have been playing well for a while. They start out 0-2, but teams like the Cowboys and the Texans and some of these other teams, they get on the roll. Now, I don't know if the Cowboys can make the playoffs. They're still a little bit too far behind, but look at the Eagles. The Eagles have lost a couple, and, things are getting weird there. Could the Eagles totally fall apart and Dallas wins out or something? I mean, the Chiefs have to win out. That's the fun thing about the NFL when you get down these last 5 to 6 weeks is there's so many teams in play and so many possibilities, and things that you thought weren't possible a month ago now all of a sudden are. And that's why they call the NFL the League of Hope.
Well, and you think about the week 1 with the Chicago Bears and the Vikings. McCarthy had to have an unbelievable fourth quarter to win that game, or the Bears are 10-2.
And he looked like he might be their franchise quarterback, and now he can't even start.
And then the next week, the Bears go play Detroit and give up like 51 points, and you think the Bears are awful again. It's just that close.
It is. The margins are small, and that's what makes the NFL so fun. And like I said, this year is so weird. Everybody, and I'm guilty of it too. There's a lot of people that are like, well, we can't see the Broncos or the Patriots or the Bears going on a run in the playoffs. It's like, well, and I'm kind of that mindset too, but it's like, well, why not? I mean, again, if the Bills get in, which I think they will, but again, their run defense is so bad. The offense is hit or miss at times. This does seem like the year that the Bills need to break through, but they're going to be playing on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to get a home playoff game, unless something crazy was to happen and they win that division. So the Ravens could win their division and host a playoff game, but their offense looks broken right now. Lamar looks something's off, injury. It's a wild year for the NFL playoffs. So I mean, if you're a betting person, you could pick just about any team, and I think feel pretty good about it. If Bo Nix can play at a league average level at quarterback, the Broncos could certainly get to the Super Bowl. And the same could be said for the Bears or the Patriots.
If Bo Nix could play half as good as he does in the fourth quarter, the other 3 quarters, he'd be pretty good.
Yeah. And it's just a different year. I could never imagine before the season started that this is how the playoffs would be looking right now. I mean, you can get on like DraftKings and do all these different combinations of teams that are going to make it and teams that are going to miss. And if you have these right matchups, I don't know what a $5 or $10 bet may pay out you more money than you would even know what to do with if it ended up hitting. It's a different year for the NFL, but it's exciting. There's some people that aren't liking it. A lot of those people are probably fans of the Chiefs or the Ravens, Bengals, some of these teams are expected to be really good. I find it really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to the playoffs because we're going to have some fresh blood in there, and it will be interesting to see the young quarterbacks that make it, who steps up in the playoffs and who shrinks, because I doubt all of them are going to step up and play well. So, again, that goes back to the Bo Nix, the Drake May, Caleb Williams.
Well, yeah, because you're going to have – let's just say the Patriots hold on and get the 1 seed and get the bye. 2 seed Broncos hosting
the Bills,
Mahomes or Josh Allen. So the way better quarterback, but they have to go on the road. You're going to have the young gun versus at home versus instead of, Bo Nix having to go to Arrowhead and play Mahomes where it's not going to go well. Mahomes or Josh Allen's got to go to Mile High and play.
Yeah, if we get that 2-7 matchup that you're talking, I know how I am. I'll probably pick the Bills or the Chiefs.
Yeah, so you're taking the Chiefs even if they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, well, yeah. But even if one of those teams has to go to Mile High, I know the Broncos have the better team,
right,
and the home field advantage. But I know how I am. I'll probably go, well, it's a year too early, even though it might not be. So, like I said, if you're a betting person, you can get, if you really believe in a team or 2 teams, you can get some good odds right now to win the Super Bowl.
Wonder what the Chiefs' odds are to make the playoffs. Because like you said, they essentially have to win out, don't they? I mean, it's not like 100% that way, but
they've got to win out. Yeah, they just have to win out. That's the easiest way to put it. There's a lot of different scenarios, but that goes for a lot of teams. I mean, the Lions almost have to win out. The Cowboys almost have to win out. Not quite the Colts and the Texans and the Jags, but that whole division's kind of clustered right now. So it's a fun time in the NFL. It's different because the past 4 or 5 years, it's felt like the same teams, a little repetitive with the AFC teams. The Chiefs always broke through, and then the NFC, it was a lot of the Niners and the Eagles.
right.
It feels like we might get some new teams this year, which I'm excited for.
Who is the best team in the NFL right now?
I still think it's the Rams, but the Packers are coming along pretty well right now.
That's what I read an article that the Rams are still the best team, even though they lose to Carolina.
Yeah.
Which Carolina's not Carolina 3 years ago. They are better.
Carolina might win their division, so they're not a bad team by any means.
Right.
I still think it's the Rams because of the quarterback and the coach. They've proven it. That would be my betting favorite going into the playoffs. But the Packers are looking good. Their talent's finally starting to rise. They may be getting Jaden Reed back at wide receiver and Matthew Golden, which is really going to help them. The Rams laid a stinker. It happens in the NFL. I'm not losing any sleep over that, but it's going to make for a fun finish here. The last month of the season. My prediction right now would probably be Rams Packers NFC Championship, and the AFC Championship game. I'd like to think the Bills could find a way to get there, and then probably versus the Patriots or the Broncos would be my guess, but I don't know. This whole year has got me confused.
And last thing, the 49ers are looking a little better with Purdy. He's not having always the best game, but the team is winning, and they do look better. And everybody that wanted Mac Jones to be the quarterback, he's not it. Brock Purdy is the leader of that team, and Brock Purdy is the quarterback that will lead them there. And as long as McCaffrey stays healthy, Purdy stays healthy, and Kittle's back now, I think they have a chance.
Yeah, they definitely have a chance in the playoffs, given their history. They have the coaching staff. But yeah, Purdy's their long-term answer. He signed the big contract. Mac Jones is a great backup to have, and they do have him under contract going into next season. So they
that's
could
good. Yeah.
Or they could trade him to a desperate team like the Minnesota Vikings and get a high draft pick. If I was the 49ers, if the Vikings offered me a third, I wouldn't do it because he's too valuable. Given that Purdy's been banged up a little bit in his career, I'd want to keep him because he's proven that he can win his games. Now, if the Vikings offer you a second or something better, then you'd have to think about it. But yeah, the 49ers are going to be a team to be dealt with. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're there in the NFC Championship game either. I mean, they've proven over the years that they can do it. Even though they have a bunch of injuries on defense, they've got Robert Saleh coaching them up. He's going to get another head coaching job out of this because they've lost Bosa and Fred Warner, and they're still performing well. So it's wide open. It's a wide open year for the NFL, which I think makes it fun for a lot of fan bases because it's, like I said, the last 4 or 5 years, we kind of known who was going to be there. You and I kind of predicted the same teams like everybody did, and that's all coming crashing down now this season.
We were wrong. Shocker, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, your Ravens or my Bills could still get there, but neither of them's playing that well. I mean, they may get into the dance, but they're not playing at an elite level either of them.
Nope, very good. Last thing here, Trev. Did you get any Zach Bryan tickets?
No, I did not. Tara got some. Did you get any?
I got 2 to St. Louis.
Oh, okay. That was the one I was signed up for, or that was the only one I got a code for. I couldn't get any. So no, that's good. I think I am going to the show in Lincoln.
Yeah.
But
I'll have baseball. I think that's in April. I'll have baseball that Saturday. It's a great day for it. I mean, like, it's a Saturday. I think Friday night or Saturday night in Lincoln. That'd be a great place to go. But I knew it just wouldn't work. I almost positive I'll have baseball that weekend. So
yeah, and I think I signed up for probably too many shows because there's some out like in Denver and Arizona, right. And the only one I got one was for the St. Louis show, and I waited in line and I couldn't get nothing. I've been traveling this week. I'm actually up in Fargo, North Dakota right now.
Oh,
and
how's it up there? Is it cold?
It's -8, and I don't know what the feel like temperature is, but it's bad outside. It's bad. It's
supposed to be like -10 here tonight too. I mean,
it's probably pretty similar to what it is there in Iowa. I know it's cold. I was going to go get something to eat, and I'm staying at the DoubleTree here in Fargo, and they've got a restaurant. And I just said, I'm not even leaving the building. Went down there and got a sandwich and some fries, and I'm just staying inside. I'm gonna try to make my way back tomorrow. We'll see what the weather does, but it's deadly cold outside all over the Midwest right now, and maybe some other areas.
Yeah, it was. I think it was when I got in my car this morning to go to work. It was like 31, and just all day it just kept getting colder and colder and colder.
Yeah, I filled up with gas. Probably like at 3 o'clock here, because like I better fill up with gas right now instead of first thing tomorrow morning, because it's going to be even colder. So I got gas all filled up, and
yeah, I did that today too.
My plan's to get on the road early, but I'm not looking forward to going outside early in the morning. It's brutal outside everywhere. This is the type of temperatures you don't mess around in.
Right. And if this was January or February, we'd be more used to it. But this is December 3rd. It's usually not like this.
No, it's really bad out. So it looks like Friday it's going to warm up again, and then Saturday, Sunday it's going to be warmer, but they're talking snow again.
Yep.
Even though it's just a little compared to what it was. So it's looking like it might be a rough winter for everybody, no matter where they're at.
Yep, I agree. So, no, which shows did Tara get?
The Lincoln, Nebraska one.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah,
with Kings of Leon and whoever else is going to be there, I forget.
Yeah, that was a good one. So, very good. All right, Trev. Well, we're just right at an hour. Anything else you want to talk about?
Nope, I'm going to be off next week. I'll be at a sales meeting. So if you can get Zach or someone else to come on, and then the following week I'll be on.
All right. Sounds good. So, all right. We'll talk to you later, Trev. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Have a good one.